"You're not the type of guy I see a future with," my girlfriend said at the $2,500 birthday party I threw her. So I stayed calm, packed her stuff, and kicked her out. Hey everyone, before we jump into today's video, I need your help. We've noticed the channel is losing some traction, and subscribing is one of the best ways you can support us. It's quick, free, and it helps us keep bringing you awesome content. Your support means the world. Let's keep this channel growing together. Thanks so much. Now let's start the video. So I've, 29 male, been running my own electrical business for about 5 years now. Nothing too fancy, but it pays the bills and then some. Got my own house that I paid off last year. Modest 3-bedroom place in a decent neighborhood. Work hard, mind my own business, that whole thing. So about 2 years ago, I was at a house party when I spotted Beatrice, 28 female, across the room. Blonde, cute smile, laughing at something her friend said. It wasn't just that she was attractive. There were plenty of attractive women at that party. It was the way she seemed genuinely happy, not performing for social media or trying to impress anyone. That's what made her stand out. We ended up talking by the kitchen counter for like 2 hours. Found out she does nails at this upscale salon called Divine Digits, or some bougie name like that. The kind of place where rich suburban wives pay $80 to get little flowers painted on their fingernails. What I liked about Beatrice was that she didn't get weird when I told her what I do for work. You'd be surprised how many women's eyes glaze over when you say electrician instead of marketing manager or some office job. She actually seemed interested, asked about the business, whether I liked working for myself. None of that fake interested stuff either. She was genuinely curious. After about 8 months of dating, it made sense for her to move in. Her lease was ending and she was practically living at my place anyway. Most of her stuff was already there. Now here's where I probably should have paid more attention to the details. But hindsight's 20/20, right? When I say she moved in, I mean she showed up with 2 suitcases of clothes, a couple decorative pillows, some scented candles, and 3 houseplants. That was it. My place was already completely furnished because I'd been living there for 3 years. I'd spent years getting everything just how I wanted it. So basically, she moved into a fully furnished house and contributed some throw pillows. At the time, I thought it was sweet. She was making the space ours with her little touches. Looking back, that should have been red flag number 1 that she was used to other people providing everything while she just existed. The first year and a half living together was actually pretty solid. Sure, we had the usual couple stuff. She'd leave dishes in the sink longer than I'd like. I'd forget to put the toilet seat down. Normal relationship things. Nothing that made me question whether we were compatible or anything like that. She wasn't exactly what you'd call domestic. I'd come home from job sites to find the place looking like a tornado hit it, but I figured we were both working, so I didn't make a big deal about it. Started doing most of the cooking because she'd either burn whatever she was making or order takeout every night. Same with cleaning. I'd end up doing the dishes, laundry, bathroom, all that stuff. Didn't really bother me at first. I'm used to taking care of my own space, and I didn't want to stress her out by nagging about household stuff. Plus, she was working full-time too, so it seemed fair that I'd pick up the slack at home. But here's the worst part. When I'd gently suggest maybe she could help out around the house a bit more, she'd act like I was asking her to build a rocket ship. I'm going through a really hard time right now, Atlas. I need to focus on my mental health. Or my personal favorite. I thought you wanted me to take care of myself first. Taking care of herself apparently meant doing absolutely nothing productive, while I handled everything else. And I mean everything. Cooking, cleaning, laundry, yard work, paying all the bills, maintaining the house. Basically running a full household while she treated the place like her personal resort. Looking back now, I can see she was already testing boundaries. Seeing how much she could get away with before I said something. How much I'd do for her while she contributed the bare minimum. But at the time, I just thought I was being a good boyfriend. Then about 3 months ago, everything changed. Beatrice decided she needed a break from work. Just like that. Out of nowhere. Told her boss at the salon she was taking indefinite time off to recharge her batteries and explore new opportunities. I thought she meant like a week or 2, maybe a month at most. Everyone needs a break sometimes, right? The salon business can be draining. Dealing with demanding clients all day. Being on your feet for hours. The chemical smells from all the products. I figured she'd decompress for a bit and then get back to it. 3 months later, and she's still on this magical sabbatical. And let me tell you, she's really committed to the break lifestyle. We're talking sleeping until noon every day, spending entire afternoons binge-watching reality TV shows, scrolling through TikTok and Instagram like it's her full-time job. Her job search was the biggest joke of all. And I use the term job search very loosely here, because what she was actually doing was scrolling through job postings for maybe an hour a week, then finding reasons why each position wasn't good enough for her. "This one's too far from the house," she'd say about a salon that was literally 15 minutes away. "This one doesn't pay enough," about a position that offered more than she was making at her old job. "The reviews online are terrible," about places that had 4-star ratings. The vibe just doesn't feel right about jobs she'd never even applied for. My favorite excuse was when she found a position at a really nice salon downtown. Better location, better clientele, opportunity for chair rental, which meant more money. Her reason for not applying? "They require Saturday hours, and weekends are our time together." Our time together, which consisted of me doing chores while she watched TV. Meanwhile, I'm picking up extra work to cover her share of expenses. Started taking on weekend jobs when I could get them, saying yes to those emergency calls that come in at weird hours. Basically anything to bring in more money. I was exhausted all the time, but I told myself this was temporary. That's what partners do, right? Support each other through tough times. The really messed up part was how she'd act like this was all completely normal. Never once thanked me for covering her expenses, or acknowledged that I was doing everything around the house. If anything, she seemed to think I should be grateful that she was letting me take care of her. I would come home around 7 p.m. covered in dust and wire clippings, and there she is, camped out on my couch in the same spot where I left her that morning. "Hey babe, how was work?" she'd ask, without even looking up from her phone, like she was doing me some huge favor by acknowledging I existed. And when I'd hint that maybe it was time to start looking for work more seriously, she'd flip it back on me every time. "I thought you wanted me to be happy," she'd say, with this wounded expression. Or she'd hit me with the classic manipulation. "Do you want me to just take any job and be miserable? Is that what would make you happy?" "No, Beatrice. What would make me happy is if you contributed literally anything to this relationship besides taking up space on my couch." But I kept telling myself this was temporary, that eventually she'd get bored of doing nothing and want to get back to work, that she was just going through something and needed my support to get through it. But it got so much worse. So Beatrice's 28th birthday was coming up in late September, and she'd been dropping hints for weeks about wanting to do something really special this year. Not just dinner and a movie or some low-key celebration. She wanted a full-blown party with friends, family, decorations, the whole production. Now normally I'm not big on throwing parties. I'm more of a grill some burgers and watch the game kind of guy. But I figured after 3 months of supporting her while she lived like a queen, maybe a nice birthday party would remind her of what we had together. Show her I cared about making her happy. Plus, she'd been pretty down about the whole job situation, or at least pretending to be. So I thought this might cheer her up. Big mistake. I decided to go all out. Took a Friday off work, which meant losing a day's pay. But whatever. Started planning this thing like I was organizing a corporate event. We're talking about a real production here, not some half-assed get-together. I designed and printed custom invites for 30 guests, decorated the place in her favorite rose gold and white with balloon setups and a photo backdrop, and spent $400 just on decorations. I hired her favorite Mediterranean catering for nearly $800, and even brought in a professional bartender with a full setup for $300, not counting the alcohol I bought separately. I wanted everything to be perfect, even invited people I didn't like because they mattered to her. The hardest one was her birthday gift. She'd been talking for months about wanting to redecorate our bedroom, saying it felt too masculine and needed more feminine energy or whatever. So I found this local artist through Instagram who does custom paintings and commissioned a piece specifically for above our bed. I showed the artist pictures of Beatrice, told her about her style, her favorite colors, what kind of vibe she was going for. The artist created this gorgeous abstract piece with flowers and gold accents that looked like something you'd see in a fancy hotel. Cost me $800 and took 2 weeks to complete, but it was exactly what Beatrice had been describing. Day of the party, I was running around like a maniac getting everything set up. Started at 7 a.m., moving furniture around to create more space in the living room and kitchen. Set up the bar area on my back patio, arranged all the decorations, made sure the playlist was perfect. Mix of her favorite songs and stuff that would keep the party energy up. The catering company showed up at 4 p.m. to set everything up. Bartender arrived at 5 to get his station ready. By 6 p.m., my house looked like something out of a magazine. I'm talking professional level party setup that probably cost me close to $2,500 total when you factor in everything. Beatrice spent most of the day at her old salon getting pampered. Hair, makeup, nails, the works. Which I paid for, obviously, because what's another $200 on top of everything else? She looked absolutely stunning when she got home around 5:30, and for a minute I actually felt good about the whole thing. Like maybe this would be worth it. Party officially started at 7 p.m., and honestly, it was going amazing. Everyone showed up. People were raving about the setup. The food was incredible. Bartender was killing it with the drinks. Beatrice was in her absolute element, taking pictures every 5 minutes, posting Instagram stories, playing the perfect birthday girl who was so grateful and surprised by everything. I was actually feeling pretty proud of myself. People kept coming up to me saying things like, "Dude, you really outdid yourself." And Beatrice is so lucky to have someone who does all this for her. Even her mom, who usually treats me like I'm not good enough for her precious daughter, was being nice and thanking me for making the day special. Then around 10 p.m. I went inside to grab more ice from the kitchen freezer. The caterers had used most of what I had, and the bartender was running low. That's when I heard voices coming from the spare bedroom down the hall. The door was cracked open and I could hear female voices talking. Now I wasn't trying to eavesdrop or anything. I was just walking by with a bag of ice when I heard my name mentioned. So naturally, I stopped to listen. What guy wouldn't? It was Beatrice talking to her cousin Chelsea, who she's super close with. They talk like every day and Chelsea knows all her business. I could hear them clearly through the cracked door. "This party is absolutely incredible," Chelsea was saying. "I can't believe Atlas put all this together himself. The decorations, the catering, that painting, everything is perfect." And that's when Beatrice said the words that ended our entire relationship in about 10 seconds. "Yeah, Atlas is nice and all, but he's just temporary, you know? Until I find someone better. He's not really the type of guy you see a future with." I literally froze in the hallway holding that bag of ice. Just stood there like a statue while my girlfriend casually discussed my expiration date at the birthday party I'd planned and paid for entirely by myself, in my own house. Chelsea laughed, not a shocked laugh, but like an amused, "Oh, Beatrice, there you go again," laugh. Then she said something like, "Well, at least he treats you well while you're figuring things out." "Oh, definitely," Beatrice replied. "He's perfect for right now. Takes care of everything. Doesn't pressure me about work. Lets me focus on myself. But long term, I need someone more ambitious. Someone who's going places." Then they started talking about some guy named Derek who'd been sliding into her DMs on Instagram. Apparently he works in finance, drives a BMW, has an apartment downtown. They were laughing about his messages and how he keeps asking her out. "Are you going to meet up with him?" Chelsea asked. "Maybe after I figure out my exit strategy with Atlas. I mean, I can't exactly afford my own place right now, and he's been so good about covering everything." I couldn't listen to anymore. I walked back to the kitchen, put the ice in the cooler, and spent the rest of the party playing the perfect host while my entire world crumbled around me. Smiled when people talked to me, made the appropriate responses, acted like everything was fine while internally planning her departure. The crazy part was watching her for the rest of the night, knowing what I'd just heard. She was all over me, thanking me for making her birthday so special, posting couple pictures with captions about having the most amazing boyfriend ever, taking selfies with the custom painting, showing it off to everyone like she was so touched by the thoughtful gift. Meanwhile, I'm standing there knowing she sees me as a temporary convenience until she can upgrade to someone better. Someone more ambitious than the guy who owns his own business and house and just dropped $2,500 on her birthday party. Party ended around midnight. Her friends were all hugging me goodbye, telling me what a great job I did, how lucky Beatrice was to have me. If only they knew what she really thought. We did minimal cleanup before bed. I told her we could deal with the mess in the morning since she was tired from all the excitement. She was going on and on about how perfect everything was, how she couldn't believe I'd done all this for her, how much she loved me. I just nodded and smiled while being completely checked out, because in my head, I was already planning her exit strategy. The same exit strategy she'd been discussing with Chelsea while I was getting ice for the party I threw her. Funny thing about eavesdropping, sometimes you hear exactly what someone really thinks about you, and once you hear it, you can't unhear it. I stayed calm and made a plan. Next morning, Saturday, Beatrice woke up around 11 a.m. still buzzing about the party. Kept going on about how amazing everything was, showing me all the pictures and videos people had posted, reading me comments about what a great boyfriend I was. The irony was incredible. Around noon, she announced her plans for the day. "Delilah and I are going out for birthday round 2, brunch downtown, then shopping, maybe hit a few bars later. You don't mind, do you, babe? It's kind of a girls' day thing." Delilah is her best friend, the one who enables all her worst behaviors and probably knew all about the Derek situation. They were going to spend the day gossiping about guys and spending money they didn't earn while I stayed home like a good little provider. "Sounds fun," I said. "Have a great time." "You're the best," she said, kissing me goodbye. "Love you." The second her car pulled out of my driveway, I called my crew lead and told him I was taking a personal day. Then I got to work on what I like to call Operation Fresh Start. First thing I did was grab every empty box I could find in the garage. Had a bunch left over from when I moved in 3 years ago, plus some Amazon delivery boxes I'd been meaning to recycle. Turned out I needed way more than I thought, so I drove to U-Haul and bought about 20 moving boxes in different sizes. Then I went through the house systematically, room by room, packing up every single thing that belonged to her. And I mean everything. Clothes, shoes, jewelry, toiletries, makeup, hair products, those stupid decorative pillows, the scented candles, her houseplants, all of it. You wouldn't believe how much stuff she'd accumulated in my house over a year and a half. Her makeup collection alone filled 2 entire boxes. We're talking hundreds of dollars worth of products scattered across my bathroom counter like she'd claimed permanent residence. Foundation, concealer, 17 different lipsticks, eyeshadow palettes, brushes, tools I couldn't even identify. It was like clearing out a Sephora stockroom. Found stuff I'd forgotten she even owned. A yoga mat that had never been unrolled. A juicer that was still in its box from some health kick that lasted exactly 3 days. Books she'd bought to improve herself, but never opened. A whole drawer full of jewelry, including pieces I'd bought her for various occasions. I wasn't being vindictive about any of this. Didn't throw anything away or damage her belongings. Just packed everything carefully and neatly. Labeled each box with what was inside. Beatrice, makeup. Beatrice, clothes. Beatrice, shoes. That kind of thing. If anything, I was being more organized than she'd ever been with her own stuff. The whole process took about 4 hours. By 4 p.m., I had everything boxed up and ready to go. 15 boxes total, stacked neatly by the front door. Then I did a final walkthrough of the house to make sure I hadn't missed anything. It was weird seeing the place without her stuff everywhere. The bathroom counter was clear. The closet had space again. The bedroom wasn't covered in her clothes. For the first time in months, my house actually looked like my house again. While I was packing, I'd been thinking about what to do with the custom painting I'd commissioned for her birthday. That $800 piece of art hanging above our bed that she'd been showing off to everyone at the party while secretly planning to dump me for some finance bro. I decided to leave it up for now. Partly because I'd paid for it, but mostly because I wanted her to see it when she came home. Wanted her to remember that while she was calling me temporary, I was spending my hard-earned money trying to make her happy. Now here's the thing about situations like this. Most guys would have sent angry texts, blown up her phone, maybe even tracked her down at whatever bar she was at to confront her in public. That's exactly what someone like Beatrice would expect. Drama, emotion, begging, arguing. But I'm not most guys. I run my own business, which means I deal with problems professionally and efficiently. When a client doesn't pay their bill, I don't argue with them. I just stop providing service. When equipment breaks down, I don't get emotional about it. I replace it and move on. This was just another business decision. Beatrice had made it clear that I was a temporary solution until she found something better. Well, congratulations. Her temporary arrangement was officially terminated. Around 6 p.m. I started wondering what time she'd be home. Part of me was curious to see her reaction, but mostly I just wanted to get this conversation over with so I could move on with my life. Beatrice rolled up around 8 p.m. I heard her car in the driveway, then the jingle of keys at the front door. There was a pause, then her voice, sharp and confused. "Why are there boxes everywhere?" I stayed on the couch. Didn't even look up from the TV. "That's your stuff," I said flatly. There was a beat of silence, then her footsteps moved fast into the room. "What? Why is it packed? Are you mad I went out today or something?" she asked, standing in front of me like I'd just spoken a different language. Her voice cracked a little, that fake sweet tone she used when she didn't know how much trouble she was in. That's when I dropped it. "I heard what you said to Chelsea." Her face? Man. She went from confused to ghost white to full-blown panic in seconds. I watched her brain scramble. "Wait, what? That wasn't... I didn't mean it like that. It was just girl talk. Chelsea always brings out the worst in me." Her voice sped up like she was trying to outrun the truth. "You said I was temporary," I cut in. "In my house? At the party I planned and paid for? While wearing the necklace I gave you?" She shrank in her seat like each word was another nail. Then the tears started. "I love you, Atlas. I swear I do. I just get insecure sometimes and say stupid things. I didn't mean any of it, I promise. 6 months ago, I probably would have bought that. But now, I wasn't handing out second chances. When the waterworks didn't work, the switch flipped hard. Wow, you're seriously being controlling right now. This is such an overreaction. Are you just looking for an excuse to break up with me?" Then came the threats. "You can't just kick me out. I live here too." I finally looked her dead in the eye and laid it out. "No, you don't. You moved into my house. My name's on the deed. The mortgage is paid off. You're not a tenant, Beatrice. You've been a guest, and guests don't get squat when they wear out their welcome. And just like that, her face told me she knew it was over. This reality hit her like a truck. She'd been so comfortable in her setup that she'd forgotten she had zero actual rights to be there. Then came the bargaining phase. Promises to get a job immediately. Swears she'd change. Begging for another chance. She tried everything from declaring her love to threatening suicide if I threw her out. The emotional manipulation playbook got completely exhausted in about 20 minutes. I gave her until 9 p.m. to load up and leave, or everything was going on the curb. That's when the real ugly came out. Called me heartless, said I'd regret this decision, told me I'd never find anyone as good as her. The mask completely slipped, and I got to see who she really was underneath all the sweet girlfriend act. She loaded her car with as many boxes as would fit, cursing me the entire time. Had to make 3 separate trips because apparently someone who doesn't work accumulates a lot of possessions. Each trip back she got angrier, probably realizing this was actually happening and her free ride was officially over. The funniest part was watching her try to figure out logistics in real time. Where was she gonna go? Her parents' place was far from here, and she'd burned bridges with most of her friends by borrowing money she never paid back. The reality of being a 28-year-old woman with no job, no savings, and no backup plan was hitting her hard. During the second trip, she tried one more angle, started talking about how good we were together, all the memories we'd made, how we could work through this if I'd just calm down and think rationally. Like I was the one being irrational for not wanting to date someone who saw me as a temporary placeholder. By the time she was loading the last boxes, the anger had shifted to this weird acceptance mixed with resentment. She kept muttering things under her breath about how I'd changed, how I wasn't the man she fell in love with, how I was showing my true colors. The irony was incredible. I was showing my true colors by not letting her walk all over me anymore. The final moment was almost anticlimactic. She stood by her packed car looking at my house like she was seeing it for the first time, maybe realizing what she'd actually lost. Not just a boyfriend, but a completely subsidized lifestyle that let her do whatever she wanted without consequences. She tried one last guilt trip, voice trembling just enough to sound pitiful. I can't go back to my parents' place. I'm almost 30. Do you know how humiliating that is? I didn't flinch. Just looked at her and said, maybe next time don't trash the person keeping a roof over your head. Then she grabbed her keys, stormed out, and drove off without another word. I went back inside and did a final check to make sure she hadn't forgotten anything or taken something that wasn't hers. The house felt different immediately. Quieter, cleaner, more peaceful. Like this oppressive energy that had been building for months just vanished. That night I called my locksmith buddy who owed me a favor from when I'd done some electrical work at his shop for cost. He came over around 10 p.m. and changed all the locks, even the garage. Took him about an hour, and he didn't ask any questions. Just handed me the new keys and said he hoped things worked out. By the time I went to bed, it was like Beatrice had never lived there at all. Her scent was gone from the pillows. Her products weren't cluttering the bathroom. Her clothes weren't scattered around the bedroom. For the first time in months, I had my space back. I slept better that night than I had in weeks. No one hogging the covers, no one's alarm going off at random times, no one sighing dramatically when I got up early for work. Just peaceful, uninterrupted sleep in my own bed. But the peace didn't last long. Because apparently when you cut off someone's meal ticket, they don't just quietly accept the new reality and move on with their lives. They launch a full-scale campaign to try and guilt, manipulate, or harass their way back into the situation they lost. Sunday afternoon, my phone started lighting up like a Christmas tree. Text after text, call after call, all from Beatrice's number. The progression was pretty predictable. Started with desperation, moved to anger, then back to desperation, with some guilt tripping mixed in. The messages were a masterclass in manipulation tactics. First batch was all apologies and promises to change. How sorry she was. How she'd get a job tomorrow. How she'd never take me for granted again. Real tearjerker stuff that might have worked on some sucker who hadn't heard her real opinion of him. When I didn't respond to the apology to her, she shifted gears to anger. Suddenly, I was immature, heartless, throwing away 2 years over one stupid comment. Amazing how quickly someone goes from begging forgiveness to attacking your character when they realize the guilt trip isn't working. The best ones were the threats about how I'd regret this decision, how I'd never find anyone better, how she was the best thing that ever happened to me, how I'd be crawling back begging her to take me back. The delusion was impressive. This is coming from someone who spent 3 months doing nothing while I paid for everything. By evening, I'd had enough entertainment value from her messages and blocked her number completely. Peace restored, problem solved. Or so I thought. Monday morning, I'm getting ready for work when my phone starts buzzing with notifications from Instagram, Facebook, even LinkedIn somehow. Beatrice had apparently spent her night creating new accounts and messaging me from every platform she could think of. The dedication was almost admirable. Same pattern as the texts: begging, anger, more begging, back to threats. She'd screenshot our old photos together and send them with captions about how happy we used to be. Shared memories about trips we'd taken or things we'd done, trying to make me nostalgic for the good times. What she didn't seem to understand was that those good times were built on a lie. I thought I was dating someone who cared about me and saw a future together. Turned out I was just funding someone's extended vacation while she shopped for my replacement. Blocked her on every platform I could think of. Finally had some peace again. Or at least I thought I did. Tuesday evening, I get a call from a number I didn't recognize. Figured it might be work-related since I'd been bidding on some new commercial projects. Answer the phone and hear a familiar voice. It's Chelsea. Chelsea wanted to mediate and help us work things out like adults. Apparently, Beatrice had been staying with her parents and was absolutely miserable. The poor little princess wasn't used to having rules and responsibilities after months of living consequence-free in my house. According to Chelsea, Beatrice was really sorry and learned her lesson and wanted to talk things through. She tried every manipulation angle in the book. How hurt Beatrice was, how she'd never meant what she said, how relationships require forgiveness and compromise. Look, I know what she said was wrong, Chelsea admitted, but she's been crying nonstop and just wants a chance to explain. Can't you at least hear her out? I let Chelsea talk for a few minutes before pointing out some basic facts. Then she tried the classic, girls say things they don't mean when they're frustrated, excuse. Like I should just ignore what Beatrice really thought about me and pretend everything was fine. That sounded like a recipe for a healthy relationship. The conversation ended when I told Chelsea that if Beatrice had something to say, she could have said it before I heard her discussing my expiration date with Derek from Instagram. Blocked Chelsea's number and thought that would be the end of it. I was wrong. Thursday afternoon, I'm on a job site rewiring an office building when my phone rings. Unknown number again. But this time, it's Beatrice's dad. Never liked the guy. Always acted like his daughter was slumming it by dating a tradesman instead of some college-educated office worker. He tried the man-to-man approach first. How I was being immature and should work through problems instead of running away. Like I was the one who'd created this situation by having standards and self-respect. When the reasonable approach didn't work, he brought out the heavy artillery. How devastated Beatrice was. How she'd learned from her mistakes. How I was being unreasonable and vindictive. The same script everyone else had been using. I explained the situation from my perspective. 3 months of supporting someone who saw me as temporary, overhearing her discuss her exit strategy at the party I'd organized. He didn't want to hear any of that. Just kept insisting I was overreacting to one comment. Then, Beatrice's mom got on the phone, full emotional manipulation mode about her little girl who was crying herself to sleep every night. How could I be so heartless? Didn't I care about Beatrice's feelings? Couldn't I find it in my heart to forgive her? I pointed out that their daughter had been living rent-free in my house for months while planning to dump me for someone better. Maybe they should be asking why they raised someone who thinks using people is acceptable behavior. That's when the conversation took a turn. Suddenly, I was being dramatic and vindictive for having boundaries. They couldn't understand why I wouldn't just forgive and forget like a good little doormat. Started getting defensive about their precious daughter and how she was the real victim here. The final straw was when her dad accused me of destroying a young woman's life over my fragile male ego. Like I was supposed to thank Beatrice for the privilege of being her temporary provider while she looked for an upgrade. I told them both exactly what I thought of their parenting and their daughter's character, then hung up. Blocked both their numbers immediately. If they wanted to enable their 28-year-old daughter's victim mentality, they could do it without involving me. The next few weeks were blissfully quiet. No more calls, no more messages, no more intervention attempts from family and friends. Beatrice had apparently exhausted her support network's willingness to fight her battles for her. Life started getting back to normal pretty quickly. House stayed clean, and I had my evenings and weekends back. Started picking up some hobbies I'd neglected, hung out with friends I hadn't seen much while I was playing house with Princess Beatrice. Best part was the mental energy I got back. Wasn't constantly stressed about coming home to chaos, wasn't walking on eggshells around someone's mood swings, wasn't working overtime to support someone who didn't appreciate it. Just peaceful, drama-free living in my own space. About a month later, I heard through mutual acquaintances that Beatrice had moved back in with her parents permanently and was still taking time to figure things out. Apparently, she didn't get her job back after all because her break was way too long. Some people never learn. Her parents were apparently covering her expenses now, so she'd just transferred her freeloading operation to a new location. Started dating again after a few months. Nothing serious at first, just getting back out there and remembering what it was like to be with someone who actually appreciated my company. The difference was incredible. Women who thanked me for planning dates, who offered to split checks, who had their own careers and interests. Looking back, I'm grateful for that birthday party conversation. If I hadn't overheard Beatrice's real feelings, I might have wasted years with someone who saw me as a stepping stone to something better. Instead, I got my life back and learned to value myself enough not to accept being someone's plan B. Sometimes the trash takes itself out. You just have to be smart enough to leave it on the curb.